Hello Internet, this is Brandon from Modular Racks. We recently did an install on the new ZROADZ kit for the Ford Bronco. Currently ZROADZ is the only company making a roof rack for the top of the new Bronco. Has to be of course the hard top, can't bolt to a soft top. The package is reasonably large when you receive it and quite heavy. It is a steel platform style roof rack. Packed pretty well though in terms of preservation against chips and scratches. A good number of pieces too. I wouldn't say that it's a difficult installation, but it does have an afternoon. It's going to take you an afternoon to do it. There's a pretty good number of nuts and bolts, so you'll want to do this on a surface where your things aren't running away from you. So we would consider this a DIY-able product. The instructions are reasonably thorough, and we'll go over a couple of the things that they, well, didn't make a point of, but turned out to be pretty important. One of the things that we first noticed was applying these sticky rubber pads to the bottom of the bar. This is going to protect the top of your Bronco from the steel feet. They're a little oversized and a bit rough cut, so they don't talk about it, but we sort of recommend having a nice sharp blade so you can clean them up. The adhesive was strong, it shouldn't have any trouble staying in place, but again, pretty much everywhere needed a little bit of trimming to get it to that sort of perfect standard that we have here. So here we're test fitting the rear crossbar section, which is this box section that's cut with slots so you can put accessories into it. It's important you don't do a final bolt here because there's a real rear tail bar that needs to be slid in. You can see that rear tail bar going in here. And so obviously if you bolted that in place, you wouldn't be able to make that happen. The instructions are a little vague on that rear tail bar, so just make sure before you put your center sections in that that's in place. So as we're doing the rough assembly here and you're running down all of the metric fasteners, make sure that you're only going hand tight. You're going to need to be able to adjust this thing on the fly as you're installing it. So we want to get the pieces in place and secure, but not snugged up to the point where things can't move. So as we went to slide this one in, we had a little bit of a burr inside there or something going on. So we had to do a bit of cleaning up, some sandpaper and a file. And then everything went together smoothly after that. Make note that this forward section has directionality to it, so you want that plate to be facing upwards and outwards towards the front of the vehicle, so that you can mount lights on it later. If you've decided to purchase the optional light kit, or if you're going to be adding your own lights, there's 8 3-inch pods designed to go on this, or a light bar of about 40 inches we figure should also be applicable. Alright, so here you can see the mostly assembled section. This next step you're going to want some sort of padding up on your roof so you don't drop it directly down onto the cap, and a buddy to help you lift. Make sure you go forward and release these cover plates on the front of your Bronco. They are hiding the forward accessory ready mount points that Ford has generously provided for us. So again, this is a pretty intense lift. You're going to want a helper for this. We would not recommend you trying to do this on your own. If you were to drop it on the lid of your vehicle, you could do some serious damage. And then some soft padding underneath lets you float it like we have here to get everything in the right orientation. Then you can pull those pads out, drop it right down onto the studs with minimal risk to life and limb, which is the idea. Here we can see the rear fit. Those rubber pads are now coming down in contact with the Bronco cap. Kind of an interesting system. Gravity seems to do a lot of the work at the back. And then up front, of course, you have those 2 studs that are bolted in. Not a ton of room to get your wrenches in there, so a ratcheting wrench is pretty handy. You're going to need some Loctite too for this project. We're using Loctite blue here on the forward fasteners. As we're doing the final stages of install and we're tightening everything up, we're adding Loctite. This is just going to prevent them from rattling loose in high vibration situations, and it's some excellent stuff. Nothing beats the good old Loctite. Rear clamps going in and into the notches on the cap. These are clamping it onto the cap, but they actually don't put any crushing pressure on the cap, which we thought was an interesting feature. So for all these tight spaces, we're using a Milwaukee M12 electric ratchet. You don't have to use a Milwaukee, but if you're doing this kind of thing more often than not, these electric ratchets do allow you to turn bolts in places that you otherwise wouldn't be able to reach, or would take you a year as you go one click at a time with a manual ratchet. So it did speed up the process of building this rack quite considerably and give us access in places that otherwise would have been quite tricky. And here we're seeing it pulled out of the shop for the first time in the sunlight. It's quite a beautiful kit. It rides nice and low on the top of the Bronco here, and lots of places to attach things down. So these front two crossbars, as you see here, they can be adjusted in their positioning on your roof, giving you a bunch of different options for what you may mount, how long, and exactly where. Plus you can see all of these slot cut holes here, ready for all kinds of fasteners to go through for any sort of accessory you might want to put up there. You could build on top of this and turn it into a more complete platform. You could run lights, you can run a whole bunch of different cargo gear, accessory pieces. It's really going to be the foundation of a brilliant system that can be fitted out a lot of different ways. So we're fitting this particular ZROADZ and Bronco kit with a roof nest condor, which is a 2-man hard shell tent, very compact on the roof of your vehicle, so it still leaves you with a little bit of space for other things. Of note, as we were putting this in, the ZROADZ, of course, rides very close to your roof, so getting your hands and tools underneath to tighten up the nuts and bolts required to affix the tent is a bit of a chore. That power ratchet now doesn't even fit, so we are condemned to manual methods. A little hard on the knuckles. It can be done, but if you're doing an install like this, do be aware of any brackets that dangle below the roof rack. And that pretty much brings us to a wrap on the ZROADZ Ford Bronco roof rack or roof platform install video, with a little bonus on the roof nest condor on the end there. If you have any other questions, or if you're curious about one of these systems for your Bronco, don't hesitate to give us a call at Modular Racks, or reach out through one of our website contact forms. Of course, email or the chat bot on the website works really well as well. There's people manning those during regular business hours here in the Pacific Northwest, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. If you've been enjoying the content here at Modular Racks, we encourage you to like and subscribe, ring the bell so you get notified of all the future product videos and outdoor adventure content.